So you wake up one day and you're basically the most dangerous thing alive. Your body moves at Mach 20 and every government on the planet wants you dead. Most people in that situation would find a bunker, lay low, maybe start a podcast. Koro-sensei decided to teach middle school. That's not a bit. That's the actual premise of Assassination Classroom. And the wild part is that it works. Koro-sensei isn't just some overpowered monster coasting through the story on raw ability. He's a former elite assassin who chose a classroom full of rejected kids over world domination, and the series never lets you forget how strange and unexpectedly moving that decision is. The government gave him a deal. Don't destroy the Earth, teach Class 3E for 1 year, and let them try to kill you. He said yes, and he meant it. Class 3E isn't exactly the honors program. These are the kids the school dumped at the bottom of a mountain because the system decided they weren't worth the investment. Bad grades, behavioral issues, circumstances that had nothing to do with actual intelligence or potential. They got labeled, separated, and thrown away, and everyone just moved on. So when Koro-sensei walks in on day one and starts treating every single one of them like they matter, it hits differently than any motivational speech ever could. He's not doing it to be nice or to make a point. He does it because he actually believes it, and that belief ends up being more unsettling to the premise of the show than any weapon they could hand him. The assassination attempts start almost immediately, and early on, they're basically just comedy. These are 13-year-olds trying to take down something that processes the world faster than the human eye can track. Poison in the tea, a sniper positioned in the tree line during recess, a trap in the supply closet involving a tripwire and what appears to be 3 paper fans duct taped together with actual conviction. Every plan collapses before it fully forms, because by the time a move is in motion, Koro-sensei has already read it, adapted to it, and prepared written feedback with a smiley face at the bottom. He grades the attempts, not on success, but on structure, creativity, and approach. A failed assassination in his class still earns you comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now's a good time, because the story stops being funny pretty soon, and you don't want to miss what comes next. What separates Koro-sensei from a typical invincible character is that the speed isn't even the scary part. The scary part is the cognition behind it. He doesn't just move fast, he exists at a completely different tempo than everything around him. When a bullet leaves a barrel, it's already a solved problem. He can track every student in the room, process their emotional state, run multiple tactical scenarios, and still have enough bandwidth left over to notice that one kid in the back has been staring at the wrong page for 10 minutes and needs a completely different approach to the material. That combination of raw ability and total situational awareness is why the word untouchable doesn't really cover it. He's not hard to hit. He's already somewhere else before the thought of trying even fully forms. And yet, he holds back every single day. The students only ever see a fraction of what he actually is, and that restraint is completely deliberate, because the point was never to show them what they're up against. The point was to show them what they're capable of. Every failed attempt teaches them something concrete: approach angles, timing, how to read an environment, how to move without telegraphing intention. He's training the people actively trying to kill him, and that's not irony. That's the entire design. The government figures out pretty quickly that the kids alone aren't going to get this done, so they start sending in professionals. Karasuma comes in first, running the PE class while quietly coordinating the actual program underneath. He's military through and through, direct, disciplined, not there for the social experience. The dynamic between him and Koro-sensei is one of the more interesting threads in the show, because they're fundamentally the same kind of person operating on opposite sides of the same problem, and that parallel creates a tension that goes way beyond a simple good guy bad guy setup. Then comes Irina, the English teacher whose entire skill set lives in psychology and social manipulation. She doesn't need weapons when she can make a room full of people trust her in under 15 minutes just by controlling the emotional temperature. The show uses that contrast to make a larger point. The threat around Koro-sensei isn't one thing getting bigger. It's a whole ecosystem of people adapting to his existence. The bounty going up is when the tone shifts for real. Once the international community locks onto Koro-sensei's location, it stops being a contained school situation. Outside organizations start moving, the class stops being just a group of kids with special knives, and they become collateral damage waiting to happen. The moment anyone figures out how attached Koro-sensei is to his students, that attachment becomes the real weapon aimed at him. Protecting them from it requires something that speed and reflexes can't fully cover. It requires him to be present in a way that no combat ability has ever asked of him before. That's when the story makes its actual argument. His invincibility was never the point. The emotional exposure was always the real vulnerability, and the series builds to that slowly enough that by the time you feel it, you're already too far in to look away. Then the Reaper shows up and nothing is the same. Most assassins come at Koro-sensei trying to solve a puzzle they've never encountered before. The Reaper doesn't have that problem. He helped build Koro-sensei's entire combat foundation from the inside, which means he knows every reflex, every trained instinct, every pattern that other professionals spent months failing to crack. Fighting him feels less like a battle and more like being forced to sit across from whoever you used to be before you decided to change. His tactics are designed to dismantle every advantage that took years to develop, and he does it with the quiet confidence of someone who was present when surviving it doesn't feel like winning. It feels like a confrontation with where Koro-sensei came from and how far he's had to travel from that version of himself, because that's what the classroom actually becomes over the course of the year, and the show earns it in a way that sneaks up on you. The dynamic between Koro-sensei and his students stops being teacher and assassin somewhere in the middle of all the chaos and becomes something closer to a family, not in a cheesy way, but in the way that happens when you've been through enough together that the original reason you showed up stops mattering as much as the people around you. Every failed attempt, every lesson, every conversation after class adds another layer until the line between person trying to kill you and person you do anything to protect just dissolves completely. And for the students, it's what makes the ending nearly impossible to prepare for, no matter how much he tries to get them ready. The students start learning pieces of his history through the year, and you can see it shift how they look at him, holding the teacher they know next to the thing the rest of the world has been afraid of this whole time is a heavy thing for a 15-year-old to process. The final stretch of the series takes on a weight that's hard to describe without giving too much away. Every small moment in the classroom starts to feel like it matters more than it should, because the deadline isn't abstract anymore. It's right there, everybody knows it, and nobody wants to be the first one to say it out loud. What Koro-sensei is actually doing, stripped of everything else, is preparing them for a world that already made up its mind about them before they had a say in it. And he's doing it under a death sentence he accepted on purpose, knowing the end was already written. Every lesson, every debrief after a failed attempt, every piece of written feedback with a smiley face in the corner, all of it is happening with the clock running. That's not a traditional redemption arc. It's quieter and harder to label because he's not trying to earn anything or escape anything. He's just trying to leave them better than he found them. The world sent everything it had at him. Governments, professional killers, military programs, the person who built him from the ground up, none of it worked. The class did, not because they were the most skilled or the best equipped, but because they were the ones who actually understood him, and because he spent 12 months making sure they'd be ready when the moment came. You don't do that if survival is the goal. You do it when you've already accepted the ending, and you just want the people around you to be standing when it's over. The world looked at Koro-sensei and saw a monster with a price on its head. His students saw the teacher who walked into a room full of kids nobody wanted, decided they were worth every second of the time he had left, and proved it every single day until the last one. That gap between what the world saw and what those kids experienced, that's the whole show.